What's up, guys? It is JZNES back again. Today, here we are talking about Life is Strange Season 2, or Life is Strange 2. I guess it is Season 2 because the first one says Season 1. And we always speculated about that. What does that mean? Does that mean that there will be a Season 2, and how would that work with our choices and all of that, which didn't end up amounting to much, except for like a little bonus cutscene there in the background of the first episode. Yeah, so I'm conflicted about this third episode. I feel like it was good, but I also am I don't really have a sense of where our story is going. I think I kind of know where it's going, but this episode was such a breather episode in a game of what has mostly felt like breather episodes. But at least the last episode, I kind of had a sense of like, okay, we're doing this grandparent dynamic thing. Like we're here. We're obviously going to see the Captain Spirit stuff now. How long is that going to last for? Well, the answer is one fucking episode. This episode kind of meanders a lot, and it's more about these side characters, which is fine. But, I just don't know really what it adds to the whole. I know what the events of this episode could add to the whole, but I feel like a lot of these side characters are like characters that would be in Life is Strange 1 or in Before the Storm that you would have an optional pass with and get to talk to briefly or something. And that's kind of the problem with the game at the moment, is that you never get this sense of these characters are going to stick around. You will not be seeing these characters until later. You might see them again, I don't know. But so far, any character that has been in one episode has not crossed over into another outside of the main characters and, like, our friend from the beginning of the game, Lila or whatever. Where's Brody? I haven't heard anything about fucking Brody since episode 1. He's a great guy. Should we hear something from him? I know we're kind of off the grid. Something. Did I miss something, Technically, we met the Cassidy and Finn characters in the last episode, and they carried over to this episode. But my point is, we never get this, like, permanent standing... spoilers for this episode, by the way. By the end of the episode, you end up leaving the camp here. So, like, I get that these people impacted the lives of our characters, Sean and Daniel there, but was there a purpose to this? What did this add to the overall story? What is the overall story? Daniel and his brother dealing with their dad's death or something? We didn't really talk about that much. Is it the powers? Like, what does that necessarily mean to anything? In Life is Strange 1, it was pretty apparent what the story was from the outset. It was we're looking for Rachel Amber. We're looking for we're trying to figure out about Max's powers. There was always an overlying story to Life is Strange 1. And Before the Storm. It felt like, you and Rachel Amber and trying to escape and doing that kind of stuff. The consequences of Chloe and the school thing, and the play was set up before, and then the whole mystery of her mom and all of that. It just seemed very obvious what we were kind of getting at here. This game is more meandery, where I don't have any fucking clue what's going on. I know that they're trying to get to Mexico, but we don't really know what that necessarily means for them. Is it freedom? Is that what we're meant to assume? But they have freedom now. Isn't that good enough? I mean, I guess that's part of the message of the episode and of the game, is all of this stuff along the way. Isn't that freedom enough for you? Isn't that kind of what you wanted anyway? They're looking for family, for a place to stay, for a place to be. But when they get that, it always seems to screw up for them or something. So they have to keep moving on. So it's just like Avatar, The Last Airbender. Obviously not the blue people, the Avatar, The Last Airbender. The great show, one of my favorite shows of all time. They move places constantly, but it's always towards a goal. The goal is very clear. The goal is we need to stop the Fire Lord. Every little step along the way helps towards that goal, and it makes the story richer and grander, and the little stories along the way add up to the big story. This doesn't really feel like it's adding up to anything. I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking towards here. Now maybe that's a thing that'll get answered in the future, but you set up breadcrumbs is my point. That's how story writing works. So far it seems to be more about the characters and how do we get money. Yeah, maybe it's about the brother. How do you keep the brother good? How do you not corrupt the brother? How do you corrupt the brother if you're playing it that way? Daniel and his powers, but like that's only so thin of a thing there. In Life is Strange, Max's powers affected the rest of the things. This is how you found out information about, you know, past and present to really bring your situation to light there, or escape situations and stuff, and that was useful. It, you know, Max didn't have to hide her powers as much. It didn't really matter or whatever. Nobody ever really figured it out. This game is all about hiding the power or showing it off, I guess. I don't know. It's a really weird contrast to the other games. You know, and Chloe didn't even have powers and before the storm, and they still managed to make that work pretty good. I feel like the powers are overshadowing the purpose of the story here, you know? And while I think they're doing a decent enough job at their character work and the character building of these characters, it just, there's not more to it than that. That's kind of the whole thing at the moment, which is just different, I guess, to the previous Life is Strange games. It's just, it makes me not know how to feel about it. Now, so there's really not a lot that happened in this episode, and that's also where I'm kind of getting to this point of, like, what do I even say about it? I can tell you the events that happened, but I don't really know how this much impacts the greater narrative, especially since we'll be leaving these characters behind. So, let's just do it then. We'll see what happens. So, you start off, you're in this camp. You can look around and stuff. You can look around at your stuff. There's this little... Actually, it starts off in the past. This little story about this watch or whatever that Daniel steals. And it's this whole message about how he's spending more time with his friends than his little brother, etc., etc. You see your dad for a little bit because it's in the past, you know, before he died. You're in your house again, kind of thing. You know, and that comes up later in the episode. You know, you're spending more time with, like, Cassidy and the other people than you are Daniel. But to be fair, Daniel is spending more time with, not Sean, Finn, who's another person in the group there. So, yeah, basically you've been adopted into this society of these, traveling people I talked about in the last episode. And you're working on this farm, this wheat farm, or whatever. Prior to going there, though, you just kind of explore the camp a little bit, talk to a couple of people. There's this, like, knife-throwing mini-game at a tree. Daniel's, like, really good at it. I don't know if it's meant to imply that he's using his powers, because later on he uses his powers to... Or in the mini-game later on, he uses his powers to stop your knife from hitting again. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's why he's so good at it. I don't know. I don't know what this is meant to set up. It's obviously meant to have this whole thing where there's a bonding moment between this Finn character and Daniel, and he's acting with, like, the brother that Daniel wants, as opposed to maybe the brother that Daniel needs, because of what Finn does later, you know? But You know, so, like, that's kind of it there. Then you go to this weed farm. They all complain about how much it sucks working there or whatever. The guy that takes you there is kind of like an asshole. He like hits Cassidy, I guess, who's that girl from the last episode who I couldn't remember her name, who plays the guitar or whatever. That's Cassidy. He like hits her, and then that's it. That kind of just I didn't choose to intervene there. I didn't feel like it was good enough. Like obviously you shouldn't hit people, but I didn't really see that happen even. I just kind of saw, I don't know, them be confrontational to each other or something. I don't know. I didn't see that part. I did read that later on the choices thing, and maybe I should have intervened. I don't know. I just feel like whenever we do violence in this game, it really gets us in fucking trouble. Evidence in a bit. I'll tell you about that. So, yeah, you go there. There's this little mini game where you like, while everyone's talking, you have to like hit L2 and R2 at the right times when it's on screen. It's really stupid. It's not a good mini game. It's not very in depth. But every time you screw it up, the thing goes slower and slower. So, you know, it just slows down, and then you're just like, you get punished by having to take longer at it. So it's an exercise in fucking patience. And then every like couple of rounds, you gotta like clean your scissors. And you can't clean it in between the rounds. You have to clean it while the round is going on. That doesn't make a lot of sense. I would have rather you've been able to clean your thing in between rounds. Maybe there's a consequence if you like clean too much or something. I don't know. But anyway, so you're doing this. You're cutting this weed or whatever. And then, yeah, you just talk about how much it sucks. And the guy's like, shut up, you know. We gave you work even when you blah blah blah, all this stuff. None of this is really relevant to anything. You know, like, they're still making money. You can look at an envelope at the beginning that says you made like $1,400 or something, which is like way more than you've ever had in the game to that point, which is great. So that's pretty good. I mean, I know it's not gonna last him long. It's longer. It's more than money than he's ever had. I mean, if he rationed that out a little bit, I'm sure he could make that work. You know, speaking of the future, you know, like what's gonna happen or whatever, what the fuck happens when they get to Mexico? They're still gonna have to find jobs and work, and it's gonna suck anyway. There's not, you know, I mean, I'm sure the economy's not great to get more money. And maybe he thinks the money that he makes is gonna get him through, but he keeps saying, oh, this isn't gonna be enough. This isn't gonna be enough. Like, how much is gonna be enough, man, for the rest of your fucking lives? You know, like, it's a long fucking time. You guys are young. Like, hell, even if I had to live on $1,400 in Mexico for the rest of my life, I don't think that's achievable. Maybe. I don't know. I can't really... I've never been, so I can't tell you how the economy is down there to make that work or whatever, but something tells me that's not going to be enough. So, and he knows that, but it's not even... That's not going to be enough to live down there. He's not even thinking about that. He's like, it's not going to be enough to get there. And I'm like, well, shit, dude. How are you going to live down there? That's an important thing he hasn't thought about. So anyway, this day, like, goes by. Then you go back to the camp, and you can, like, talk to people and stuff. There's, like, a few choices where you can, like, drink and get high or whatever. But Daniel's there at the camp, so I just said, nah, I'm good. You know, basically turn everyone down who asked me to do something like that. There's all these choices around you that lets you do stuff like that. But I said, no, that's not a good influence on him. Because then he's going to want to do that, you know. Basically. So, yeah. And then eventually you get the choice to, like, stick around. They're like, talking to you about your hair or whatever, like giving you a haircut or something. But Daniel's like, oh, I'm gonna go back to the tent. There's this moment earlier where he was like complaining about not training with his powers or whatever. So they go off to the lake and train for a little bit. And he's doing all this stuff, and then he like lifts this giant tree stump or whatever, and it's supposed to be like this scary moment, like, oh, look at how much his power has grown or whatever. It's like, yeah, okay. It kind of dawned on me at that point, like, this is just the Force, right? He has the Force, essentially. That's all it is. You can lift stuff and push stuff, and it's the Force, essentially. But anyway, you know, not like he has a laser sword or they're in space or anything. He's just got the Force. So what was I saying? So yeah, I chose to go because he gets really mad. He's like, I'm not a kid anymore. So I chose to go back to the tent to like, and they have a talk about that, and he's really getting like moody and you know, just that kind of stuff. So I wanted to get him back to kind of where he was, and you know, or not even that. Just I just wanted to talk to him, you know, obviously, because it's like he just doesn't seem to want to connect with Sean as much because he's got this Finn guy. So, I talked to him a little bit, and you know, we kind of got it back on track. You know, he was mad, and we talked about that, and I was just like, you know, yeah, you know, we're family and all that, and I think I got it back on track for a second. You know, like the next day is like a whole nother thing. I don't even remember if anything happens on the second day work-wise, but then by the end, I think it's just like a cutscene. By the end, it's like payday, and you're all discussing how we're going to spend the money, blah, 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 and they're talking about all this like meaningless stuff, you know, like commercials, like just these little things that make you happier. Like, oh, Daniel's like, oh, I'm gonna go get a slushie and those Choco Crisp things and whatever, blah blah blah. And Cassie's like, oh, well, you know, big dreamers, like what, you know, shouldn't you get yourself something? And they don't give you many options, but she asks me, and I'm just like, socks, I guess. And apparently he's only got one pair of socks, which makes sense. I mean, why would he have more than one? Because he didn't pack any more than one. You know, just ran with the things on his back. What about the, you know, the grandparents? Didn't they get him any extra clothes or anything? I mean, that seems like a grandparent thing to do. Maybe that was what the gifts were for Christmas or whatever, but we never got to experience that. But they were there for a while. Like, you'd think they would have gotten him more clothes or something. Anyway, so you go in to talk about this payday thing. I get the vibe that, like, not everyone gets paid, because he's, like, saying something about pay lotto or something, and I'm like, so you're gonna give it to, like, the better workers or something? That kind of seems a little fucked up. I thought it was more like everyone gets paid a set amount kind of thing. And, like, he kind of, well, yeah, maybe he's, like, sexist, too, because I never even thought of that. He kind of talks shit about the two girls that were with us at the time, one being Cassidy and one being one of the other girls. And then he says good things about myself and Finn. Apparently, if you don't do, like, decent at that mini game or whatever, which apparently, by the end, it said my thing was, like, average on the choices at the very end or whatever. Which he was saying, like, oh, good job or whatever. So it sounded like I did good, so, but apparently it was just average. Like, okay, whatever. I only screwed up a few of those beats during the stupid mini game, out of boredom, really. But, yeah, so, but then, like, this whole thing happens where he's like, because you tell Daniel to stay outside because he wants to come in too, but he can't because he's just a kid or whatever. And they talk about that earlier. He's like, I can't have a fucking kid working here. You know, you're on thin ice, basically, yada yada. Daniel breaks into the back room, his, like, office or whatever, and then Big Joe, not Big Joel, the YouTube channel, Big Joe comes in, he finds Daniel, he comes into the other room where you're talking about the pay or whatever, and the guy's like, Merrill is his name, he's like, yeah, you're both fired, fuck you guys, even though he just told me I was a good worker, like, I don't know, he fires you, and he's like, I can't have you doing this shit, blah blah blah, I already told you you were on thin ice, Everyone tries to stand up for you, but it doesn't work out. Whenever Big Joe has his back turned, Daniel uses his power. Regardless, you can't really stop him from doing it. I don't believe, anyway. To throw an ashtray at his head. Like, you either have the option... Oh, because he's going to beat up Daniel. That's what it is, because he wants to, like, send a message to him, or whatever. So you have the option to take the blame or not take the blame for the ashtray. And I did. I said that was me. So he punched me in the face, and then so now I have a black eye for the rest of the episode. No big deal. I'll take the hit for Daniel. That's good. I don't want Daniel to get hurt. Wink, wink, hint, hint for later. God. So anyway, you get fired. They send you all out. They you know, the next scene is back at camp. And so everyone kind of knows this is your final night there. You're going to, like, move on or whatever. So they throw you a party, basically. They have the... Well, they saw Daniel do the thing, so they have this, like, talk amongst a few of the characters. Like, more of the main characters. It's like, the ones that were there, anyway. And they're like, yeah, so he's got this powers. Like, we kind of disclosed that to them. Like, a few of the other ones don't know about the powers, but, so, like, it leads to some kind of awkward interactions in a bit there. But, pretty much, as soon as, like, I don't think I've been able to talk to these characters much, like, maybe once. As soon as I, like, even start to get to know these characters, and there's this whole thing on the first campfire, where they all, like, tell their, like, most fucked up moments in their life or something like that. And Sean talks about how you got, like, tied up by the guy at the gas station or whatever, because they're like, oh, you don't have to talk about your dad or that stuff. So he doesn't talk about that. He talks about the gas station guy who, like, tied us up and all that. And they all have this little moments there, but and not that I don't mind hearing about that kind of stuff, but it was just like in previous games, you went to that, it didn't come to you as often. You had a couple of characters in the main roster that you would kind of deal with and interact with, and that was that. But then, like, you weren't, like, forced to sit down and talk to these characters. Not that it was a problem. I didn't mind listening to these character stories, but it just felt different. You know, it's odd. It's very different structurally than the previous games in that regard. And so they all kind of tell a little thing or whatever. So you get to know a little bit about each of these characters. But that is pretty much as soon as you know anything about them, they're going to be gone, which was my problem from earlier, you know? And so you go around, you can kind of briefly talk to each one of these people, or groups of them or something. And, yeah, and then, like, pretty much at the end of that, you talk to Cassidy. You can either get a tattoo from her or not to, like, show that you're part of their tribe or their clan or whatever. So I got a wolf tattoo because I thought Daniel would like that, you know. And then, like, there's also the option to have her do one, just her choice. I don't know what that creates, but, oh, what I was talking about earlier with the powers thing, Finn comes up with this plan, there, where he's like, well, we should break into Meryl's, like, safe and take all of his money and run, kind of thing. And I kept refusing this as an option. I probably refused it by the end, like, 5 or 6 times as, like, a major choice. And I kept saying, no, 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 we're not doing this. I don't want to do this because Daniel. I don't want to create a bad influence for him. I know that would definitely create a bad influence for him to tell him to steal from people and stuff and use his powers for wrong and bad. I don't like that. I said no every single time. Even when we were right there, ready to do it, I still said no because it's wrong, you know? It's wrong. I had to stand my ground. So let the record show that for the whole thing. Not that it ended up really mattering. Anyway, so... Yeah, so that was a plan earlier, and Cassidy's like, fuck you, we're not doing that, basically. But anyway, by the end there, after she gives you your little tattoo, she like, oh, come meet me at the lake. She like gives you a kiss on the cheek or whatever. Come meet me at the lake or whatever. We're gonna go for a swim. And I'm like, okay, whatever, sure. So you can go and talk to Finn. You have to talk to him on the way to the lake there. And he asks you again about the plan. And he's like, are you in or out? Like, we could do this. We could get you all the money you need for Mexico, you know? And I still said no because I wanted to stand my ground. And I also don't think that's proper. I don't really care about, you know, ripping off the bad guys or whatever. But I just felt like it would be really dangerous, which it is. And, you know, we don't need to involve ourselves in that. The game doesn't really give you a choice whether or not you're doing it. I mean, it kind of, like... You could stand your ground and say that we're not doing this as many times as you want. I wonder if there was a way... I mean, I could have got that money, but what would that have done to my kid brother's moral status in the world, you know? I think that's really the more valuable thing. I know the game is like all about being worried about money, but at the end of the day, maybe that's what it's trying to say. Maybe it's like, you know, you don't really need money. And that's what Cassidy's definitely trying to say, is you don't need money. You just need your friends, your family, you know, that kind of thing. People to be there with you to make the times better. Like, what do you need money for, kind of thing. Anyway, we do need money because capitalist society or whatever, but, you know, that's kind of the idea. Anyway, so, after I refused him, which apparently cuts me out of being in a relationship option for him or whatever, if you, like, go with him, that's, like, better for that. I didn't really... you know, I'm not, like, a big, like, ship with either of these people. But I guess... I don't know. Like I said, it doesn't really matter to me. It's not as strong of a connection as, like, Max or Chloe or something. Because they spend a lot of episodes building those relationships up. Even with Rachel Amber, we know about her from the first game, and then... you really get the chemistry there. Not that Cassidy and Sean don't have some amount of chemistry. I did not get the time to be emotionally invested in the ship, and I don't think I need to care from this point on, because what's going to happen? Are they going to come with us the whole way? I doubt it. I mean, by the preview for the next episode, they're definitely not coming the whole way anyway. I even said to Cassidy, like, hey, come with us. But she's like, nah, that's... Daniel doesn't want me there. It's you guys against the world kind of thing. Okay. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. By the end of the thing, I'm happy for Sean getting his love interest kind of thing. Fuck, I don't care if he ends up with Finn or Cassidy. You know, I don't give a shit. The point to that is I cut off that option by not accepting going on this dangerous mission. And if this is the guy that, you know, if that's going to be my life with this guy from now on, like, fuck no, I'm not going with him. He's going to be a really bad influence on Daniel there. Not going to happen, you know? I'd rather see him end up with Cassie. She seems like she has a level head for these kind of things. So, she didn't want to break in to begin with, which is what I agreed with. So I refused him. I go down to the lake, and she's like stripping nude. By the way, you see her boobs earlier, and she's just like out in the camp, you know, when she's going to take a shower or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, that's different. You know, Life is Strange has never gone this far yet. I mean, but you know, whatever. So, and then she just strips down again and gets in the water or whatever, and she expects you to do the same, and so you do the same, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's, you know, that's a lot right off the bat. And then apparently he leaves his underwear on, and then she's like, yeah, all the way. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I would have done, just left my underwear on. But all the way, she says. And so he does that, and he gets in. They talk for a bit, and he's like, I don't really have much game, you know, based on what they were talking about in, like, episode 1 or whatever. And she's like, are you sure? I mean, you're doing pretty well so far, blah, blah, blah. And then they kiss, and then They go back to the camp. She invites you into her tent, and you could still refuse at that point. Maybe it would have been a better idea, because then I might have stopped something in a second here. Actually, I think at that point it still would have just been the same, and we probably would have realized come to the same conclusion, just wouldn't have happened to anything. But I went inside the tent. They fucked. That was pretty cool, I guess. I don't know. I'm happy for Sean. He's very worried about that in the first episode, so now he just got it out of the way, you know? Good for him. I can't imagine he's going to have the opportunity to do that later in this game, so... He got laid! Nice. Cool. And a girl just kind of calls you out on that after you, like, come out of the tent. She's like, did you just fucking have sex? And she's like, yeah. Cassidy's like, yeah, pretty much, you know? So that's the thing. Sean got laid. Alright, cool. Then they realize that Daniel's not anywhere, and Finn's not anywhere. So they realize, oh, they went ahead on the deal without us anyway. So there is an option prior. If you accept his proposal, Cassidy will get mad at you, but you do get to go to the thing earlier, and you actually have opportunities to like cut the cameras and stuff, so you're like not... Oh, you know what? Fuck, that's gonna be a thing, isn't it? That's gonna come back to bite me, because they're gonna have me on security footage. Yeah, fuck me. Since I came later on, they're gonna have at least Daniel on the security footage, breaking in and stuff, because they didn't have the foresight to do that. Apparently, if you go ahead with the mission, that would put you in a better standing to actually plan the thing out, rather than us just having to go after them, which is what we had to do. So basically you go to where these cars are. There's 2 trucks there. They stole one of the cars or something. And you have to slash the tires on the one or break the engine. And then on the other one you have to break into it. So somehow there's a way that you can break into this truck and then hotwire it without him knowing. I don't know how the fuck you were supposed to do that. I looked all the way around there. I don't know. I don't know what you were supposed to do there. I got a key for an office or something. I don't know what that means. Maybe I was supposed to do something with that. I don't know. So I just had to break the window to get in there so we could hotwire it after stabbing the tires on the other truck with the screwdriver or whatever. But, so we disabled Big Joe by not having him, like, follow after, which is good. But it doesn't end up mattering, because as soon as we get there, they're already about to break in, essentially. And I think no matter what I do at that point, we're pretty much fucked. So, yeah, so, because we're talking for, like, 3 minutes, trying to say, hey, let's just get the fuck out of here. Meryl finds us, and there's something. How does that work? Yeah, I don't remember exactly what happens there, but somehow we all get put under gunpoint by Meryl and his shotgun. And he tells us all to get down on the ground, essentially. And there's a choice to discuss that or just do that. And I said, well, I'm not going to discuss that. We can just do that. I thought that might cut me off from letting Daniel use his powers, though. Which it didn't. So later, when he's got the gun pointed at all of us and he's about he's about to shoot somebody. I don't think it was Daniel, but Daniel looks over at me. He's like, can I use my powers, basically? He's like, gives me that look. And I'm just like, yeah, go for it. I don't want this guy to shoot any of us or kill any of us, which is a thing that can happen. So, so he uses his powers. There's another gun that he has that's a pistol that was from the safe that if I had agreed, I was supposed to take that out of the safe so that we'd have better range in this fight or whatever. Maybe I really did screw myself over here, but He let his dick get the best of him, and he got laid, so that's pretty good. And as far as I know, nobody died, so that's nice. So yeah, anyway, so we're in this situation. I told Daniel to use his powers. He uses his powers and just goes like absolutely nuts. But because Meryl had that pistol, he actually shoots Daniel in the arm. So the only one that actually got hurt out of this whole thing is Daniel, supposedly. But then when I see the results at the end, it also says that Cassidy got hurt. And then when you see the cutscene at the end, it also shows that that Sean got hurt pretty badly. Like one of his eyes is like really bloody or whatever. So we'll see how that pans out. Obviously, I know he makes it to the next episode because it shows him in the next the thing for the next episode, the preview or whatever. And that's where the episode ends. Like, I don't know what to take from this episode. Like, I've said things that I've taken away from the episode. But, like, just, like, I don't know. It seems like it's an okay episode, you know? I just feel like every episode of Life is Strange prior to this really had, like, a big impact. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of things we were talking about. It was never felt like kind of filler, but this kind of felt like filler, you know? It's supposed to have all these big and profound impacts or whatever, but it doesn't, to me anyway. And maybe it'll be important to Daniel's character or something, because he actually decided to go along with this Finn guy. But it just felt like there's some way that this story could have been more interesting, and a more interesting direction we could have taken with this. Maybe these characters are essential to the next part or not. I don't really know. They're going to at least have to be in it for a little bit, because we're all stuck there at Meryl's place with the building all destroyed or whatever from Daniel's powers. They're all just like laying there asleep or knocked out, unconscious, whatever. The morning has come. So I don't know what's going to happen or how we're going to get away or whatever. I don't know. But yeah. You know, something I haven't really talked about yet. You may have noticed I'm playing the Life is Strange original soundtrack here. This is just like a 1 hour like loop thing of stuff, you know, just like it seems to be mostly the same song. So hopefully they didn't get repetitive. I'm sorry, but there's not really a lot of like music in this game, and not really a lot of memorable music. In Life is Strange, oh, all of it's memorable, super good. Even in Before the Storm, it was pretty memorable. I would say the music department has definitely suffered in Life is Strange 2. Even the like licensed tracks or the vocal tracks or whatever aren't really... They haven't really done anything to be impactful to me at all yet. I don't know. It just seems like there hasn't been a lot of really memorable soundtrack yet, so that's interesting. A little bit disappointing for a Life is Strange game, which always has like a banger soundtrack and a background tracks and whatnot. But yeah, like... And again, we're just in a forest setting, which we did in the first episode, so it's just like a reuse of the kind of the same setting. It's kind of boring, in a sense, you know? Aesthetically, I want to go places that aren't the forest, you know? Like, the last episode at least was like Christmassy, it had like a winter feel to it. I don't know, hopefully, I think the next episode's going to be more desert-oriented or something. I don't know. Like, the environments in Life is Strange always just felt really unique and different. There was a lot to explore. There's a little bit to explore here. So, you know, just that's kind of a thing as well. Not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, it's an interesting choice. Yeah, I don't know. There's not much else to say. I just want to see where this kind of plays out, too. But maybe you can kind of see what I'm getting at. It just felt a little fillery or... maybe more fan servicey even, you know, But maybe it is kind of important. This guy just got a chance to relax and get to know these people and had some friends for once and family. I guess that is nice, but it just doesn't make for a very interesting episode of this game. Had I played these episodically when they came out, I think they all did that. I think True Colors was the first one to kind of steer away from that, but I would have been kind of disappointed with this episode. I feel like I would have been like, oh, that's it. There's really not a lot going on here. Maybe it would have been better though, because then everyone would have been like making fan theories back then. That would have been in on the thing, but then maybe I would have even been more disappointed. I would definitely have been more disappointed after episode 3 or 2 into episode 3, because all the fan theories would have been way better than this episode really was at the end of the day. And I'm not saying it's a bad episode. I'm just saying at the end of the day, it doesn't stick up to the quality of all of the other Life is Strange episodes. But, you know, like, even the last episode was fine, and it was probably the least good of all the episodes at that point. Not to say that we're going down in quality, but it's kind of what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying they're not as impactful as some of the other things. At least they bucked, well, not really. There were people that could die in this episode. I was going to say, at least they bucked the trend of forced deaths in this episode. That was getting a little annoying, because there's only so many times somebody or something can die, and me having to feel bad about it. Diminishing returns on that, you know. Yeah, the dad in Mushroom, that was sad. Fucking, I get everybody injured or killed, you know. Captain Spirit apparently is injured or something. I don't know. It just didn't feel as emotionally impactful as some of the other episodes, for sure. I feel like the first episode did a better job of all of that than any of it. But even that had its boring moments, like in the forest. Like, it was fine, like, because, you know, you were hanging out with your little brother. That was kind of... It kind of made sense at that moment in time. This is just... It feels more directionless, you know, and that's what kind of bothers me. Hopefully we're going somewhere with this, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like we've gotten off track on that sense. I just really hope something is going to happen within this story. By the preview for the next episode, I have a good feeling about where we're going, because I think we're kind of finally getting back to the father and all of that from the beginning, which was supposed to kind of be the main story to begin with. You know what? Maybe that's why this episode feels so disconnected, because the father thing was barely brought up at all. They don't even talk about the dad thing outside of, like, you seeing him in the flashback and then briefly mentioning the whole, like, you don't have to talk about it kind of thing. And then maybe that's it. Maybe that's what I don't like about it. It just doesn't feel connected to the rest of the story. That's definitely it, I think. That's part of it anyway, and all the other stuff that I mentioned. But, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we'll see how the next episode is, and the episode after that. You know, it is what it is, but we'll see. So, until next time, this has been JZNES, and keep it classic. Stick around for more reviews, underrated games. I'll see you guys in the next one. JZ out.